Welcome back to the AWS Immersion 101 video series. In this video, we're going to talk about networking. So first, we're going to talk about virtual private cloud environments and what it means to have that isolation and encapsulation capability. Then we're going to get into Direct Connect, and then finally, we're going to talk about VPC flow logs. When we talk about virtual private cloud environments, it really is the core component for how AWS secures and protects customers from one another and isolates their resources and workloads. So a VPC is a virtual private enclave that completely isolates with zero trust your workload from every other workload running within the same AWS region, as well as all other regions. I say it's zero trust because by default, there is no ingress-egress into a VPC. This is a basis for how the software-defined networking layer works under the covers. You're able to bring your own IP address space and extend your existing on-prem environment, so you can extend layer 2 from on-prem into VPC, basically creating a hybrid cloud environment for your organization. You can peer VPCs together, as you saw in the last video when we talked about the secure cloud computing architecture framework. And you can create VPN connections and private endpoints out to other services. So within the GovCloud region, you have the virtual private cloud environment, which stands up with the AWS software-defined networking. And from there, you're going to go ahead and deploy resources and workloads. There's a great video called A Day in the Life of a Billion Packets, which kind of talks through how VPC is created and how that flow works. And the link's here and below, and hopefully you're able to take the time and watch that. So how should you secure your VPC? So this is a pretty common question. We're talking about zero trust, but I have to provide access in because I have resources that I want to gain access to. So first, we start within the VPC, building that inbound ingress-egress point through a gateway of some sort. From there, we use the standard security onion and defense in depth practice that you're used to within the DoD. So we start with network access control lists. Here we're layering through the ports and protocols by subnet of what we're going to allow into our virtual private cloud environment. And then we create security groups around resources. These are stateful, whereas the ACL or NACL is stateless. We have stateful connections through the security group, again, establishing resource ports and protocols that are going to be allowed into those security groups. And then we still rely on the OS firewall at the compute level to protect and gather information and secure the OS itself. So through this is something that should be pretty normalized for everyone. We have that defense in depth all the way down to the OS level. When we talk about layered security within AWS, we're talking about how we secure at the VPC level, how we secure as we apply those gateways, either virtual private gateways or public access IP gateways to the internet. And then behind either of those gateways, we can start to apply firewalls, IDS, IPS, and all of the things that were part of that SCCA virtual data center security stack set. And then we have the NACLs, the security groups, OS firewalls. We can apply additional WAF or layer 7 firewalls. We have services like AWS Systems Manager that can allow you to manage individual resources through command line. You can stand up SUS or YUM servers to apply patches. And then we can collect all of those system logs and pipe them out to a object store S3 bucket and have data aggregation to be able to do anomaly detection within the logs themselves. And part of those logs are going to be through our VPC flow log capability. So VPC flow log is a one-box check that's going to turn on for an entire VPC and collect all of the network traffic data that's flowing across resources and throughout the software-defined network within that VPC. And so when you look at what this would look like, it looks just like any PCAP or screen or grep that you would do on your existing network. And you can see things like the source address, destination, what port and protocol it's trying to get to, and when it happened. And this kind of helps you build a better picture of what that traffic flow looks like within your environment. So AWS Direct Connect is just that. It's the private secure connection between an on-prem environment and an AWS region. We can actually terminate down to a virtual private cloud environment or into a region so you can have multiple VPCs connected through it. It's standardized on 802.1q VLANs, and it's sold in 1 or 10 gig port increments. And you can actually aggregate those together and use things like BGP prepending to provide redundant path connections into the region that you want to use. And this is really the basis for how you're going to extend layer 2 or your IP address space from on-prem into AWS. So through this, it's important to note, right, that we're not saying that cloud is an all or nothing choice. Really, there's a lot of ways through the use of Direct Connect to extend back into your on-prem environment and use some of the existing resources, or vice versa, use your on-prem environment to extend into the cloud to pull on new native resources. So you could use things like your on-prem Active Directory to do LDAP authentication and federate into IAM, our Identity Access Management solution, to provide a single point of access and identity access control through AD. You can use your network configuration standards to extend a private network connection. You can use on-prem key management or HSM to deploy and encrypt keys running data in the cloud. Or you can use your on-prem backup solution and use services that allow you to target resources up in AWS. So this all is kind of built together on Direct Connect to provide that extensibility into the cloud for hybridity. So the last thing we're going to talk about, right, is how the Direct Connect applies to the DoD for CAP. So the cloud access point is, as we talked about in the last episode, is all about the extensibility of the NIPRNet into a cloud service provider, in this case, AWS. So what you're looking at is essentially the on-prem environment hitting a co-location meet-me point, and from there, the cross-connect into the AWS backbone allows you to peer that connection into the AWS GovCloud regions. And the CAP is just that. It's just a set of BGP routers and security that are allowing you to have that extensibility of a VLAN within the NIPR into AWS. So hopefully this kind of dispels some of the magic of how the networking is done for connecting on-prem federal environments to the cloud. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about compute, and we'll get into elastic cloud compute. We'll talk about auto scaling and load balancing and all the fun that goes with it. So please stick around for that. Like, subscribe, and share.